Another Sunday, another devastating Sister Wives episode. So we start off with the family, the adults. I guess most of the children are adults now, so we don't have to say adults. Basically, the husband and wives discussing the lot again. I don't even know why they moved here. Like, this seemed like a horrible move to start with. And to buy that huge plot of land when your kids are like growing and moving, and a whole bunch of the kids don't even want to come back and live that lifestyle. So it seemed weird from the onset. So now they're distributing the land. Apparently, Janelle wants a greenhouse, so she needs the sun. But Janelle is very pliable. Like, she's not really like, I must have this. But it's very obvious that Robin told him where she wanted to be, and that's where she was going to stick with. When she starts to act like, oh, she wants to be nicer, to kind of listen to other wives' desires, it's fake. She's like, 5 is my first choice, then 4 is my second choice. 4 is Janelle's greenhouse dreamland. So I'm like, why would 4 be your first choice? Because she's like thinking, if they overtake me for 5, she knows she could definitely overtake Janelle. So Christine is definitely not happy. Mary's trying to get along. She's giggling awkwardly. It's very weird to see Mary, because Mary was kind of like the matriarch of this family, and she's been reduced to a jester. And I'm just like, what is going on? Christine is obviously, her heart is not there, her mind is not there, which we'll talk about later in the episode. But she goes along, she's like, fine, I'll take this house. But even Kody knows that this is BS, and possibly some of the wives might change their minds down the line. But to me, it was kind of like, it wasn't a democracy. Like, how did they figure out who was going to get? Because Janelle and Robin's land is huge. Then Christine and Mary's land being small is fine because she has one child. The one child lives in Chicago now. So that makes sense. But Christine has like 6 children. I guess each lot is pretty big, but seeing it on paper, the disparity is just huge. So I'm like, how did they get to this? Well, who was the main person in discussion? Because Mary and Christine don't seem to have been in any kind of discussion at all. And it's very, very apparent. So we get to Christine's house afterwards, and Christine is letting us know McKelty has a baby. McKelty joins, McKelty and her husband. Good news for them. The moms kind of have little segments saying how they're excited, that they're ready to be third-time grandmas because they do share the grandbabies. BS. Everything they do is fake. It's like, I wish they would have been their authentic selves from the beginning. Because next scene is Kody and Christine. He takes her to the law, kind of trying to feel her out because he could tell she wasn't happy. And she's like, this is not a safe space. I'm like, Christine is acting like a petulant child. Like, I understand you and your husband are not getting along, but is this not the whole thing about being like in a polygamy family? Like, there's going to be everybody's turn. And I'm not saying she should take a crappy marriage and just deal with it. But if it's crappy, then talk about it. She didn't want to talk about it either. So I'm like, what is going on? Like, she just gets up crying. Well, she wasn't really crying. She was fake crying. Then walks away. I'm like, what did this resolve? And Kody is just sitting there like, this is awkward. After this whole big blowout or awkward scene, then she invites them, including Kody, to her house because Isabel got a date for her surgery, which we're happy for. Isabel has severe scoliosis, and she's been dealing with a lot of pain, and now she has surgery date, so the surgery is going to help her straighten her back and reduce the pain that she's feeling. So this is why Christine calls them over. It's very awkward. Robin and Kody are together. You could tell they probably live together most of the time. The other wives are social distancing. So she tells them they're happy for Isabel. Kody reveals to us that he mentioned this last week, but he revealed again that basically he's not going to be there for any amount of time for this surgery, which is so weird. I understand COVID. I understand he has 17 other kids. But sir, you could literally die. Like, one of the things you sign off on the surgery paperwork is that possibility of death is here. And knowing your father is alive, well-to-do, not sick, and he's not going to be there for the surgery. I'm hoping this is a storyline and he actually shows up, because Isabel was heartbroken and she was trying to be strong. She's like, I understand he has other kids, but other kids are not having surgery right now. You're having surgery. So I'm like, I really hope he was just putting on. I hope it was just for the storyline, because if he really doesn't show up, that's some effed up stuff. And he was trying to make her feel okay and not resent him. I would resent you if you don't show up for the surgery. That's a fact. Like, why? He claims he doesn't want to put everybody at risk. Okay, take go there. You don't have to quarantine when you get there because it's a hospital. When you come back, quarantine for a week or two and join your family back. But to have her go, and Christine reveals she doesn't really care if he comes, and she tells us now that they've apparently been having a horrible marriage for like, from when they first lived in Utah, moved to Las Vegas, then moved here. So it's at least almost a decade of a bad marriage. So I'm like, why were they acting like everything was hunky-dory? And now you're kind of giving us like a dump, like everything is horrible. Even towards the end when they were doing the paperwork for the hospital, she accidentally got close to him. That's why I put it in the thumbnail, and he's like, get away from me, like go, social distance. It was so cold. It was like a business transaction. They didn't feel like a couple. And I reckon they haven't felt like a couple in a while. So I was just like, oh my God, this is toxic as hell. Anyways, that was it for this episode. It's sad to watch because the happy moment where we saw family is lacking. We don't see that at all anymore. It's horrible. But I'm more interested to find out what y'all thought of this episode. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Thank you guys.